Making pasta was a need, and opening a restaurant was a dream, which became reality. So make pasta, I had to do it at the time, and that's also what made it special.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. When the chips are down, you've lost almost everything and your back is against the wall, there is nothing left but to go for it and fight for survival. That human instinct can help create the most extraordinary outcomes of extreme adversity. And the last few years, there have been many pushed to the limits in ways unimaginable. Andrea Vignali is a chef and co-owner of Dente Enoteca. Andrea, how are you?
Very good. How are you? Good to hear you.
It's good to have you on the show. You've got your own restaurant now, but a couple of years ago, that wasn't the case at all. You've had the most extraordinary couple of years. What's it like now to have bricks and mortar and your own establishment?
Yeah, so how you said, just 1 year ago, I wasn't owning a restaurant, and now I do. And it's quite special, very great feeling. It's always been a little bit in the back of my mind, My dream always wanted to arrive to this situation, but I didn't know it was going to be that quick.
Well, we can go into that story because when the pandemic landed, you were in a bit of a bind. Do you want to tell us the situation you were in?
Yeah, so it was quite funny for me because, I was working Grossi Florentino and I never thought I was going to leave the place. Still on a visa. I was sponsorship, and I was actually missing a couple of weeks to end my sponsorship and being able to apply for my PR. But the pandemic came, and the things changed a bit. I couldn't keep working at the moment because the restaurant was temporarily closed, and so I needed to find ways to make a bit of money. A guy supported me, Guy Grossi at the time, and he tried to help me and did all he needed to do. But, he was in a very difficult situation too at the moment. We needed to close 4 restaurants. So I needed to think about myself and try to find ways to keep going. I've never been a saver. I never saved much money, and who thought something like that could happen to us? So I was just investing on my future at the moment, and I had not much money left in the bank. I literally found myself with no income, no government support, and no ways to make money. So yeah, I started putting a couple of stories on Instagram of what I was doing during the day, which was pretty much pasta. I remember I made a jam before the pasta, and I made actually Concord jam, which we're still using right now in the restaurant. Is preserved and pasteurized in jars, and we're still serving some dishes in the restaurant, which is quite cool. And the day after that, I started, doing tortellini and gnocchi, and from there, some stories on Instagram and their requests started growing, and here I am.
Well, take us back to that time. How did it feel when you were in that situation of no income, no money in the bank, that uncertainty? Take us back to that time.
But for how I'm done, I think like I didn't really thought about it or speak with anyone about it. I just woke up every morning and did stuff. Like the pressure just didn't make me speak too much about it. I was just trying to find ways, asking people help. I remember I wrote some flyers and I was going and dropped them around in the letterbox. We didn't know, lockdowns and what was going to happen. And I was just going in the neighborhood and the neighbors and dropping all these flyers. Buy my pasta, please. Pretty much was that. A bit more articulated, but pretty much was that. And
do you have any stories of those early days when you're trying to sell the pasta and connecting with people to get money in the door? Is there any specific sort of customers that you got that you can tell us about?
Yeah, so there's there's a couple of funny ones. So especially one of my luck has been, one of those flyers end up in the hand of a journalist. So one journalist of the age, which found the flyer, Chloe Booker, she published the article. And she said pretty much what I was saying on the flyer and explaining my story. And from there, the request became a lot. And but the funny ones was at the start, I was calling my friends, suppliers, everyone was exchanging bags of onions and bags of flour and potatoes for pasta tagliatelle. So there was we were feeling a little bit back to the roots. That was something I was saying a lot during that period, because was literally feeling like it. No money, exchanging, everyone looking for food. Back to the roots was a bit of the thing of that period. And I remember a lot of calls. I was doing a lot of calls every day. Asking a lot of help, texting a lot of people, and just trying to find ways, to get out of that. And slowly I had the luck of meeting Danny Valent too, which introduced me to Lyndon and Matt, which they helped me with my journey. Lyndon is the owner of Kookaburra, and Matt is the owner of Cooper's Inn in the city, a big pub. Been there for ages. I don't remember how many years now, but a very long while. And I had the luck to start cooking there and being able to sell my food on the platform.
Tell us about the growth of this business. How did you manage sort of the boom and the increased production? So were you operating out of a home kitchen?
Yeah, so that didn't go very long. Like, I was doing probably 2 or 3 weeks in my house, but the request became so high, and my house was literally exploding of pasta, and there was flour everywhere, and it was just so unmanageable. And so I moved straight away of the pub. Was a bit hard during the first lockdown, because I didn't know there was going to be all these lockdowns. So for me, it was just a short period thing, And I was just going to do it, and after close and go back to grocery. That was happening in my head, But the first lockdown, we moved to the pub, and some friends started helping me. Other people which didn't have any job at the moment, or some other visa holders which they couldn't do any work. So that was pretty much what was happening at the start. After the second lockdown, where we understood what was a thing, and there was so much request, my business partner and brother, also Davide, jumped on board. That became an actual business. And I met Michelle, which is my partner, not in business, but in life. And she's also 100% in all the restaurant. She's a floor manager and a restaurant manager, actually. And so we became a team. And from there, the power of a singular is never strong like a power of a team. And from there, we achieved all we achieved now.
How did you get to the stage of this idea to make pasta, to earn money without any sort of money in the bank, but opening your own restaurant? What were the steps to finding that site and making it happen?
But I think making pasta was a need, and make pasta was a need, and open a restaurant was a dream, which became reality. So make pasta, I had to do it at the time, and that's also what made it special. Still now, we in the restaurant we have a section dedicated to all those products I was doing at the start, and they're still here ready to pick up every day. We have our Sapori, which is a shop And on the right side of the restaurant, we have our fine dining or approachable fine dining, call it however you want, and where we do all our things, our 5 courses degustation menu, which can arrive to 8 courses if you want. And on the left side, we have a shop. Moms of big families just walk in and buy 4 or 5 lasagna for all the family, gnocchi, tagliatelle, pappardelle. They are always available, and we're still bringing all of that as a memory and as the importance of what it was. And I think it's the basics. Like we were saying before, back to the roots. This is something I will never forget, and we're always going to give value to. So going back on your question, the restaurant, a dream which we realized slowly, we could become reality. And we could make it with all the customers which they were following us, and also all the good marketing that we did, and especially knowing our product was a very good product.
I want to explore what you've created there at Al Dente and Oteca, but take us back to when you were young. What sort of role did food play in your family?
My family has always been a bit of a hospo family, let's say that, especially from my mom's side. My grandfather was a butcher in South Africa, half Croatian, half Italian. Met my grandmother, my grandmother, when she was coming. She was coming from London, so she was British, living in South Africa too. So a bit of a mix. And my mom came. They moved to Italy, but before then that, they had. I would say my grandfather was a butcher there, so he had a huge business with more than 100 employees. And they came to Italy, they opened a hotel, and after my grandfather also opened a pub in Liguri, where my uncle is still working right now. I grew up in that pub doing my childhood when I was in holidays, and I was always spending the summer bringing up wood for the pizza oven, and doing all those kind of things, preparing the dough with my uncle, and doing all those things. So I always loved it, always been part of my life. The funny thing at the time was the fact I could walk in a pub and fill up my Coca-Cola with Fanta together and Sprite together. So I was doing, those were my type of creation when I was a child. And after I started customizing my own pizzas and we went from there. And also at home, when I was at home during the year, I remember when I was really a kid, I was playing with type of hotel, turning my kitchen in a hotel. So when my mom and dad were coming back, I was welcoming them with the menu and sitting them down, and mostly the food was always burnt by the time, but at least I was trying. And so it's always been a bit, and like I think all of us, also my business partner, Davide, he's got a very similar story. His mom and dad have had the restaurant for a long while, and Michelle always loved this type of, hospitality life where we are all in, and I think that's where we find each other. We just really dedicate to what we do, and without us being like that, we couldn't do what we're doing right now.
Tell us a bit about the early years of your career in a commercial kitchen. What was it like for you working in that environment?
When I finished, actually, I was working on weekends when I was still in school. So, it's been... I don't really remember my first impact because I never really had one. So let's say I slowly found myself working full-time from just working part-time. But what I can tell you was quite funny. Was my first service, and there's been a couple of those memories I have. One was the first service in an actual active restaurant. I was very, very young, and the name of the restaurant was Osteria dello Stracciolo. The head chef used to work for Marchesi, and there was a local restaurant in my village, but very good and high level. I remember when service started and they all started running around, I was getting a bit nervous, and I remember my eyes started twitching and never stopped all night. But the being nervous and being stressed has always been the thing which makes you run and do well. And still now, sometimes we all get stressed, but the stress, if it's managed and is pushed to a right level, will help you to go through things and get the energy to conclude. And that's one example of the first service. So I remember the first time in a Michelin star restaurant, so scared. I also there, I started working to the catering first, and after they put me up in a charging section, and I remember I was 17 at the time, and I was charging a section in a restaurant with the Michelin star, and I was like, oh, this is so great, And I remember we were working so much, stuff like just having half day off a week and dedicating ourselves to learning and cooking and that was pretty much my entire growing up. And I did 5 years in that place where there was not much else than the restaurant, But looking back, I'm like, oh, that was very difficult, but in the same time, I look back and I think the amount of things I learned and the amount of situations I was in, and which they helped me to live this life and grow up as a chef and now as a business owner too.
What led to the move to Australia?
But I remember after the experience in the Michelin star, I said to myself I wanted to relax a little bit, which is probably the first time in my life where I said that to myself. And I started working in a very small restaurant. It was new, so not much name. It was just a new experience. And I started working, the name of the restaurant was Tessitura. And I started working there. And after not long, the head chef wanted to leave. And so I took the opportunity to become head chef. I was very young by then too. And I started working there for a couple of years. I really enjoyed the time there. And, creating my first menus and learning how to charge a kitchen. And as a very young boy, I don't know if I can say man. After those 2 years, I said to myself, am I going to stay here forever? I was paid well, and by the same time I knew I still had so much to learn. I couldn't speak anything of English. Still now not the best, but it's a little battle I fight every day. I try to learn. So I decided, I said to myself, what I did here, I want to be able to do it everywhere in the world. What if one day, my country will have a problem, or I need to travel, I cannot know the language. So mainly was because of the language. And I remember I wanted to go somewhere where I could speak English, because, it's the main language which can bring you everywhere in the world. So I remember myself Googling good place with good salaries and high levels of hospitality. And Melbourne came up. Something similar. I remember myself Googling, and I decided to book a flight to Melbourne.
Were you surprised when you arrived in Melbourne? What did you think of the restaurant scene when you arrived?
Oh, so at the start was a bit. I had the luck. So I had the luck. I started in Florentino straight away, and without literally it was 3 days after I arrived. I remember I didn't have a house at the time. I was living in Essendon, sleeping in the bed of a friend, and I've been lucky. I never slept in hostels, but in the same time, I had a job, so I was actually was in Essendon before, was Black Rock. From Black Rock, I moved to Essendon after. So it was a long trip. I was waking up at 5 o'clock and coming to the city, but I knew I had the right job. I like the place a lot, and I still do. Florentino is amazing, amazing restaurant with amazing people working inside and doing very good things every day. The food and the quality of the products and the level is just sensational. I'm so fortunate to I had the luck to be there for 5 years, and so at the start was a lot, especially for someone who couldn't speak in English at all. But a lot of people in there speaks also a bit of Italian, so some people speaks very good Italian. So I ended up to learn how to speak in English. The funny thing, the first day I remember they sent me down in the cool room, get an eggplant, and I came back with an egg. Was a bit, yeah. Was hard at the start. Was hard, new language, especially you do double job, because when you go back at home, I remember huge headaches because you have to think in a different language. Your head just works so hard, and it's very complicated. Yeah.
Tell us about Al Dente. You mentioned it's the three of you in a real team. How do you work together and pull it? Put it all together for your guests?
Yeah, so Michelle takes care of whatever is the front, pretty much. If I want to use an easy word to explain, she also takes care of a lot more than that, functions but generally we all split jobs to each other. We have meetings and we talk about who is better doing what, and that's when we decide all together who is doing what. Me and David are generally always in the kitchen. He's moving on the side of the wine very well. He's been talking with a lot of sommeliers and we've been doing a lot of tastings on wine so that's what he does right now on top of the kitchen, and we split the ordering between all of us. Some people get along with some type of suppliers, some other people doesn't get along with other type of suppliers. So yeah, we just delegate to each other what's best for each other, and generally, yes, we all three quite like intense type of people, and we all want to do things very, very well. So we don't get out the meeting until we have a solution all the time. And that's pretty much how we act. We have a bit of business policies, and the piece of paper is becoming always longer, and especially with having more staff and more rules in place. It's also a very big space, this one in Nicholson Street. So we literally found ourselves running a business, which is not just a business, it's pretty much three, because we have a shop, we have a retail online, and we have a restaurant. So yeah, he's a big beast.
What surprised you about running your own restaurant?
Well, probably, I don't know. It's a funny question. I think the thing that surprised me the most at the start was how much I could push it, how much I could push myself, working wise and mentally wise. Where my dedication could arrive to. I never thought I could dedicate so much of myself to something. That's the first surprise. I was like, everything else was cancelled. Literally, it was just the restaurant. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think now I have a bit of more balance, but yeah, at the start it was just like waking up and coming here and leaving when I was dead. And that was the first surprise. And the second surprise was I always been managing people because I always had managing positions from my previous jobs. But in the same time, I realize how hard it's difficult to manage a big amount of people. Yeah, that's another surprise. Yeah.
The business started with a home delivery model, and now it's a restaurant and deli as well. Do you still do the home delivery and that side of things?
Yeah, we still have a full online business with Kookaburra. Every single product we retail in the shop is also online. So we have a system in place. So if we do a special or the veggie supplier gives us beautiful peaches because they are in season, or plums, something like that, we pickle them, put them in jars, and automatically they get in the system, and they get retailed online too and delivered at home. So at the moment we deliver for 35 kilometers. And we always go every week 2 or 3 vans around the city, dropping pasta and sauces, and some of our new creations too. Sometimes on Easter or Christmas we do special packages on top of all we do in the restaurant, obviously, which is our main revenue at the moment. But so that's pretty much what we do.
You've had the most incredible couple of years. What are you most proud of?
Probably choosing to have David and Michelle on board. And that's one of the things, because I was saying before, team. The team is the importance, the singular can go far, but will never go far like a team. So that's the first thing I'm proud of. And another thing I'm proud of is, still like the job these people is doing right now. I was saying my business partner is doing amazingly, and we're all passionate, and same of Michelle. But another thing I'm proud is one word, which is a sentence more than a word, and it's something we always been saying, and something I started saying, and now is hanging up in our office, and it's see the possibility, not the problem. That's one of the reasons why I started doing pasta because I saw the possibility and not the problem. I saw the possibility of doing something new and not the problem of a lockdown and of complaining for the kilometers I could walk and argue with the law and all the new rules in place, but see the possibility of do something new. So that's how we try to act normally in business every day. And when there's a problem, we try to see the possibility and get out of it.
Well, you've built an amazing business. What's next for you in the next couple of years?
But before, I want to find a life balance. So I would like to do other things out of the restaurant. But mainly my how I see my future is before to be able to do all the things I want to do with the restaurant, which there is so much. There's so many things, me and David want to cook, and so many new dishes we want to try, and so many new products we want to do. I'm sure Michelle's got amazing cocktails she wants to work on, and I just want to, make all the stuff become reality. I want to achieve the level I always dream to achieve. So we are always adding things, making things better, changing the systems to improve and be better. Yeah, pretty much those two things.
Well, Andrea, congratulations on what the three of you have created there at Al Dente. We look forward to seeing much more from you. Please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, we definitely will. Thank you very much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.